Good morning, everyone. This is Joseph Citro, Chair of the Livable Roadways. I'm going to ask that this meeting be called to order. Ms. Silva, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
All right, thank you, Ms. Silva. Do we have any public comments?
None at this time.
Thank you again. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting.
So moved, Kathy.
We have a motion to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very, very much. Minutes have been approved. What is next on our agenda, Ms. Silva?
Okay. If we wanted to do the pledge, we could do that. Go
Let's
back and
do that. If
Okay.
we could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
allegiance to
the flag of the
the
United
United
States,
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
One
nation,
under
under
God.
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very, very much.
Back to, there we go.
Ms. Silva, are we going to be adding a new member to our group?
We've had an application to, for the alternate position to Emily Hinsdale's membership. It's the Advocate for Livable Communities member, and Christian is joined us to introduce himself. And I do have his application if we want to look at any of the particulars, but I believe he can cover them for us. And then we would just need concurrence from the group to have me process it for board approval. Okay, Chris, oh yes, his camera's on. He's there, Christian Leon. So if you want to unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Christian looks like he's frozen.
Yeah.
Hey, Lisa, the wrong screen is being shared too, FYI.
Okay, you're seeing the go-to one instead of the minutes
Yes.
or the
Yes.
agenda? Oh, how did that
Christian's unfrozen.
happen? Okay. Huh.
Lisa, it's Jason. I think we're seeing Christian's screen.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, he might get to be presenter instead of panelist. Okay, let me go down, see if we can't get him frozen. Okay, that's why. Okay. How do I get him back to attendee or it at least lets me make him an organizer, which I don't want to do.
Let me see what I can do.
He's moving now. All right. Show my screen. All right. All right.
Christian's back to a panelist, Lisa.
Thank you. Christian, I think you should be able to unmute and tell us about yourself. You're self-muted, it says right now. Okay, there you go.
Hi, good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yay. Yes, we can.
Right on time. What should I tell you guys about myself? I'm a Tampa native, went up to school in Boston for a while and came back in 2002. And my first foray back in Tampa was working on a mayoral campaign. So I got to see the lay of the land back then and have been involved in different issues. In terms of transportation, there was a move for high-speed rail back in the day in the mid-2000s, like 2005 or something, and I was really involved with that. And have been, right now I'm the executive director of a nonprofit that's in the Uptown area over by University Mall. The nonprofit's called The Cell. It's a community enrichment lab. And so I became executive director in mid-2019. And as you guys know, that area has a lot of walkability issues. There's been a lot of incidents with pedestrians, and a lot of residents over there use bikes, and we talk a lot about public transportation and all that. So that's why this whole issue is of particular interest to me, and we haven't done any initiatives specifically to work towards that. So I've just been plugging into the conversations and learning more about the issues. And was invited to be on the board of Walk Bike Tampa Bay earlier this year by Janet Scherberger. And that led me to being here today.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've known Mr. Leon for years. I know his family. I know him to be a good man, and he will be a welcome addition to this board. So, Christian, welcome aboard. Let me step back. Step back, please. Do we have to have a motion to proceed with this application?
It would be great to, get verbal confirmation that we have a general acceptance of him as an applicant.
First
So
of all,
moved.
do I have a second?
This is Casey, second.
Okay, excellent. Ms. Silva, let's proceed. Just out throwing it out there. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Leon? You're off the hook, Mr. Leon.
Okay. And if we could get a verbal support, and then if anyone would unmute if they don't support, that would be great, like we typically do. So we had a motion and a second, so.
Okay, and let's take a vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Ms. Silva, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
And how long before we get back to Mr. Leon?
It goes through the board. So the next time the board meets in person where I can get the action taken, then he becomes a member and he can join us as a full-on member. In the meantime, you can join us as a guest like you are today. You just can't formally vote. We're not formally voting on anything right now due to COVID anyway. So please feel free to jump in. And definitely, when Emily cannot attend, that's when we really need you to make quorum. So thank you.
All right, next we'll be hearing from Florida Department of Health.
Good morning, everyone.
If you would like to present from your screen, that's fine. I have your PowerPoint up just in case.
Okay,
So
wonderful.
Go to make you presenter, okay?
Thank you.
Look for Wi-Fi that says iPhone.
There you are. Make presenter. Okay, I handed it over. Okay, great. Yeah, there you are.
Okay, let me know if you can see my presentation.
We can see it.
Can you see it there?
Now it's in full
Okay.
screen mode.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started right away. Good morning, everyone. My name is Grisel Cisneros. I'm with the Department of Health in Hillsborough County. I've been in this position about 8 months, and I am in charge of the Community Health Assessment and the Community Health Improvement Plan. That's what I'm going to present to you today. These are two very useful documents that are available to the community, and I'm going to walk you through the process of how they are conceived and the cycle they run on. There are hard copies available for you, and they are also posted on our website. So I'm going to give you those two links once I'm done with the presentation. First of all, this is a comprehensive assessment of our community that takes place every 3 to 5 years. Once this assessment is completed, there is an improvement plan that is generated from it. We use something called the Mobilizing for Action through Planning and Partnership model. And really the point of using this model is to engage the community as much as possible. There are two processes to complete this assessment. The first one is a collection of primary data. This is done in the form of a survey. For our last assessment, there were about 5,000 surveys that were collected and 25 key informants from the community interviewed. Also, 4 focus groups were conducted. This is for the primary data. Alongside, we include data, secondary data from several sources, such as Florida charts, the census information, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and other sources that you might be familiar with. There was a prioritization exercise done on July 24th of 2019 for our current cycle. And this was a large meeting where the survey results were presented, as well as the secondary data. The point of it was to identify top priorities for the community. At that point, and having said that, some things might have changed in the last year with COVID. This exercise was done in 2019, and these were the top 10 health problems that were identified for our community. I can tell you one thing, we have been doing updates and revisions to these, and number 1 and number 2 are still the same. Number 3 might have changed at this point, and there will be, there's annual progress reports for these 2 documents, both the health assessment and the health improvement plan. So those are upcoming in the month of March and April, approximately. So I just picked a few data points here that I wanted to share with you. One of the great things about this community health assessment is that it allows us to see the community through different lenses. So for this presentation, I picked the high need zip codes. This is something that may be very useful in planning. So we have about 7 high need zip codes where 60% of households have 50,000 or less annual income. And this just gives you an idea of how our data can be used for planning purposes. These are some of the same data figures. Public transportation is easy to get if I need it. And then you see at the bottom the high need zip codes and the percentage of people who answered yes to that question. Another one is a question that was posted on the survey. There are good sidewalks for walking safely. These are the percentages of people from those high need zip codes that answered yes to that question. So as you see, zip code 33604, only 33% of people felt like they could walk safely on their sidewalks. Food insecurity is a big one right now with the pandemic. Same percentages of people who answered yes to food insecurity from the high need zip codes in Hillsborough County. And by the way, these health assessments are done in every county by every Department of Health. So there is one for Pasco, there's one for Pinellas. All of those are available online. After that, the existing assets and initiatives are identified, and we go through a continuous cycle of action planning. So we identify activities, and we meet, and we revise, and we monitor those as that 5-year cycle goes along. Like I mentioned earlier, there are progress reports every year. And those are published on our website as well. This is where they are available to you. They can be downloaded in PDF form. Did I get out of the presentation? Sorry. Okay, here we go. So this is where you can find them. If you would like hard copies for you or your organization, please feel free to reach out. I can provide those as well. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Cisneros?
I have a question, Ms. Cisneros.
Sure.
I'm very unfamiliar with this kind of statistical information on, you know, health in equity in Hillsborough County. And what I'd like to understand a little bit more is, are those percentages, those 50% to 40% ranges, kind of typical in Hillsborough County to see? Because I find them pretty alarming to think that potentially half of the surveyed population in all of those categories, and some more so than others, obviously, would, you know, are really either, I wouldn't say underserved, but potentially, you know, are seeing this level of challenge.
Okay, so two things. Overall, the percentages, overall for the county, the percentages are going to be lower. The ones that I presented to you are the high need zip codes. So in these zip codes, yes, those percentages are much higher than the overall percentages. And that's the great thing about our health assessment, that you can go ahead and take a look at specific pockets, right? So if you're planning for a specific area or a specific zip code, you can consider this input. This is input that came from the community. These are perceptions from the people who responded to the survey. And that's why it's a two-pronged approach, right? So we're looking at what people have to say. We're also interviewing key informants. We're interviewing people who work at clinics, physicians, people who work at non-for-profits, executive directors of non-for-profits, key informants from the community. So so what you're looking at are percentages from the community, from the responses to that survey. I have the survey available. It's quite lengthy. And this is just essentially someone saying, no, I don't feel like I can walk safely in my neighborhood. I still think it's valuable because, you know, whether it's 30, 40, 50%, it just shows that there is a difference from your overall percentages, right? So there is more of a need to have a safe sidewalk in a specific zip code. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. That helps me understand exactly the perception aspect of it. I think is important to note. So that makes sense. I appreciate the information.
And all our data is public, and you can go ahead and sort and analyze your data depending on what zip codes you're looking at. You can do an overall for the entire county. Like I said, you can even look at it regionally, because our neighboring counties have the same type of assessment going on. So it is valuable, and there will be an updated report posted in the month of March, April.
Thank you.
For Ms. Cisneros.
This is Sarah Hendricks. I represent the New North Transportation Alliance up in the university area, and I'm familiar with Advent Health Tampa, which is a nonprofit hospital in our area up in our neck of the woods. And because they're a nonprofit hospital, they are required to develop a community health assessment plan. And I was curious, how do those types of plans that organizations like nonprofit hospitals coordinate with the work that your office does?
That's a great question. Yes, because hospitals are required to have their own health needs assessment. They have to do that every year. A lot of the work that we do is done with the Healthy Hillsborough Steering Committee. In this committee, we have members from Advent Health, we have members from Baycare, from St. Joseph's Hospital, Suncoast Clinics, Tampa General Hospital. So we try to include people in this group of stakeholders where they can provide their input and essentially let us know what is going on at their organization. They still have to conduct their own health assessments, but it's more a matter of being aligned. So a lot of the data that they're using we're using. And if you see at the final product, if you take a look at the final product of what they're putting out there and what we're putting out there, it's going to be very similar. Now, theirs is going to be focused on the population that they serve specifically, while ours is more community wide, but it still is very representative of the data that we're all using.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions?
We have a question in the chat box. Karen Kress asks, what does health department do with the information? Does it help set regional priorities?
Yes, it does. Our community health assessment is used very widely. So just to give you an example of how it may be used, it's used by non-for-profits to apply for grants. So by means of that, they are utilizing the data that we have to channel funds to a certain priority area or a need that they have identified. So specifically, we have a few programs that the health department runs, like our Compass program, which is a referral program for underserved people, low-income people, and we absolutely use our data. So we make sure that those zip codes that are identified as having low access to healthcare are contacted, and things like that. So that's one example of how it could be used.
Ms. Cisneros, if I could, I'd like to ask a question.
Of course.
You made the statement of some that feel that they cannot walk safely on their sidewalks in certain areas. Is there a breakdown on that? Let me explain. Let me ask the question in deeper. Is the breakdown is that there's no sidewalks at all? Sidewalks are too small. Sidewalks, there are motorized vehicles, whether they be scooters or otherwise. Is that a breakdown? Can you break that down?
No, there is no breakdown. The question was asked the way it was presented. So in this instance, it was asked, are there safe sidewalks in your neighborhood? So now, could it be done? Absolutely. These people could go ahead and answer another survey and then explain why. 5,000 surveys to just narrow it down to the reason why it's not safe for them to walk. It's possible, but it's just very, it's just another process. It's a different process because most of what we collect is quantitative data. For 5,000 surveys, going down to the qualitative level is possible, but it's difficult. And that's why we try to include the key informants and also the focus groups, because at the focus groups, you have representation from the community, from the hospitals, from the schools, and then there's more of a conversation. And from here, we gather more qualitative. So the answer is no, I cannot break it down. I would have to go into another analysis. But the value of it is that you identified that there is a need there. So you can very easily go back to that community. And you don't necessarily have to track down the people you surveyed, but you can just go and open up a forum, a discussion forum. Hey, what's going on? Why aren't the sidewalks safe here? And I'm sure people will be quick to let you know. And some of it might just be, obvious to the naked eye. There might just not be any sidewalks.
And Mr. Cisneros, that's what I was kind of hoping to hear. But if we look at it more, if PICO has those telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk, which they do all across the city, we could say that they're not helping ADA. And then we could go talk with TICO. If they are the scooters, whether it be Uber, Lyft, or whatever, then we can narrow it down and go talk to the scooter company. So that was my point of the question, is if we can narrow it down on reason why the people feel unsafe, then maybe we can act from there. But Ms. Cisneros,
Let me say one thing. Good morning. As an ADA advocate for Hillsborough County, who is in a wheelchair, the question that you asked was very broad. That's why he asked you, can you break it down? But I can break it down for you. The sidewalks are either not wide enough, there could be no cuts to get on and off. It could be a light pole in the middle of the sidewalk, or there could be no sidewalk at all. If we're talking about USF areas, a lot of the streets does not have sidewalk at all. They also does not have wide enough for a wheelchair or a walking. So let's not beat around the bush and say that we don't know. We don't. And those are the reasons why they don't feel safe. But over in the area, there's a lot of elderly people who cannot walk, who use wheelchairs, who use walkers. Sometimes when you ride the bus cannot pull up there because there is no bus bay. So all of that comes into play. So we need to figure out, we need to ask that question again and be specific in why you don't feel safe. We don't need to be broad. We need to be specific and to the point. When we don't get that to the point, we will not be able to fix the problem. And how do we fix the problem? By being direct. You don't feel safe because blank.
This is Lisa. I would like to add too, because so we really very much enjoy our partnership with the health department because they ask these broad questions for the perception of the users of the sidewalk. But the Hillsborough MPO has tons of databases and knows exactly where the physical structures are. And so this helps us map perception and then zoom in and know what to go look at for, you know, because we have our bike walk level of service report, et cetera. So their perspective complements ours and vice versa. So these are really great questions, but we can take deeper dives. It's just not the health department that has access to that data. They use our data for some of that.
Absolutely. And thank you, Lisa. And yes, Mr. Jenkins, I agree with you. You know, if you don't get specific, things don't get done. Absolutely. I believe in that. But you have to start somewhere. And we, because we serve the entire county, our capacity is it is what it is. That's what we have available. But I do think that with organizations like the MPO, things can get narrowed down and taken down to that specific level that you're talking about. And that is where the change happens, right? But if the bigger picture is not considered, then that small little change and that sidewalk or that driveway just never get built. So it is a matter of patience, and sometimes it's a long process, but it has to start somewhere.
If you need my help, you can contact me and I will help you with that.
Thank you very much. And I did drop in the chat the link to our reports online. And like I said, I can send hard copies. There will be updated reports coming up soon. And I thank everyone for listening in today.
Ms. Cisneros, thank you very, very much for your report.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Yes. Ms. Silva, I'm sorry, I overlooked calling roll call. Can we have a roll call, please?
Albert, would you unmute yourself and then read down so we have an organized way of covering this? And then also, because we have a new chair, it'd be great if you would say a little bit about who you represent on the committee. So, and we have some other new members, so it helps us get to know each other since we're not in person.
I'm going to start with the roll call.
Yes, please.
All right, we got Joseph Citro, chair.
I am here. I'm the new chair and I'm happy to be on board.
All right, we got Cal Hardy.
I'm here as well.
And who do you represent?
Oh, sorry, City of Tampa Transportation.
Then we got Christine Crespo.
I'm here as well and representing the American Society of Landscape Architects.
Julie Ham or Mark Hudson.
Mark Hudson is here. I'm the alternate for the City of Plant City.
Michael Marino.
I'm here, and I am the Director of Transportation Planning for the West Shore Alliance.
Melissa Collazo. Or Peter Sizanenko. Okay. David Hay.
He's here. Where is he?
I saw him earlier. I guess I'll just go ahead. Emily Hinsdale.
Hi, this is Emily Hinsdale. I represent Sidewalk Stompers and Walk Bike Tampa, and I'm very glad to have a new alternate in place.
Karen Cashin.
He's here, but she doesn't hear us, I guess.
What was that?
She's physically here, but I guess she didn't hear us.
Larry Josephson.
He communicated he had to leave early. Larry, you're still here?
Yeah, I saw him here, so.
Yeah, hello, I'm here. Had trouble unmuting myself. I'm with Hillsborough County Transportation.
Karen Kress.
Morning, everybody. Karen Kress. I represent the Tampa Downtown Partnership.
Matt Lewis.
Good morning, Matt Lewis. I represent Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning.
Justin Willits.
You see him. Can you unmute, Justin? You see your lips moving, but it's not working. He's there. He represents Hart.
See him.
He says move on.
All right, Casey Dagenhart.
Hello, I'm Casey Dagenhart. I represent the APA Florida Suncoast section. I am the alternate for Robert Mendez. He is usually here. And that's it.
All right, then we got Jason Jackman.
Hi, I'm here. I'm representing University of South Florida.
All right, then we got Kathy Coyle.
Good morning. I represent Urban Land Institute.
Arizona Jenkins.
Good morning, yeah. I represent the 88 coordinator with Yuma County. We put this meeting, and I'm on a lot of boards. Thank you.
Carlos Ramirez.
Carlos Ramirez. I represent the Greater Tampa Section Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE.
Sarah Hendricks.
Hi, this is Sarah Hendricks. I represent the New Transportation Alliance. We're Transportation Management Initiative in the North Tampa area. And I'm the alternate for our chair, Raymond Mensa, who's the Director of Parking and Transportation Services at USF.
Anna Quinones.
Hi, this is Anna Quinones. I'm with the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority.
Gus Ignis.
I'm Gus Ignis. I represent transit users.
And last, Sandra Piccirilli.
Hi, I'm Sandra Piccirilli. I represent the City of Temple Terrace.
All right, that's it.
All right, I thank
Can
you very
anyone hear
much.
me? Can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Karen Cashin. I'm sorry, I called in on the listen-in somehow instead of the phone thing. I'm Karen Cashin. I represent the City of Tampa Parks and Recreation Department. And I was too busy trying to call in to hear anyone else, but sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Silva, I apologize for not calling that earlier. Again, we do have a quorum, correct?
Yes.
All right.
It's good to see everybody's faces.
Okay. Shall we hear from the Leroy Selman Expressway?
Sure. Anna, did you want me to present for you or give you presenter screen?
Either way, you can try to let me do it.
Okay. Let me,
This is Justin Willits, just doing a quick audio check.
okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right,
All right.
thanks.
Okay, Anna. Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry, this is so much different than what I'm used to, so give me just a second.
Okay.
Okay, so.
We can see the presentation, but it's not in full screen mode yet.
Okay. Well.
All right. Now you.
Okay, there we go. You can still see everything?
Yes.
Sorry, I have a different right things than you guys, but okay, all right, sorry, moving on. Okay, so I want to give an overall update of our Pd E studies, our project development and environment studies that we have going on. I'm gonna do a deep dive in the South Salmon Pd E study though. But I do wanna just give an update to all the other ones just so that everybody has an understanding of our project limits and relatively where we're at with each one. Okay. Has it changed the screen? It looks like, hold on.
No, we're still on the title slide.
Okay. Okay, do you just want to swap and make?
Yep. I'll take it back.
Sorry.
No problem. It normally works fine, so.
I know.
No problem. That's why I always have a backup.
Thank you.
Move the faces. Go back to PowerPoint. All right.
All right. Okay, so on this slide, we have, there's a link shown on the bottom, the salmonstudies.com, and that's going to be information for all four of the studies that we have going on right now. And then you can go ahead and switch to the next slide. Next, please. Okay, so for our South Salmon Pd E study, we have our in-person public hearing. It's next Thursday, February 25th, starts at 5 p.m. and it's at the Convention Center in downtown Tampa. The presentation will start at 6 p.m. We are not doing a hybrid in that we're not broadcasting it online at the same time. So what we're doing instead is we are posting everything on that southsalmonpde.com study-specific site. So we're doing a pre-recorded presentation that will actually be posted, I believe, with most of the relevant documents and everything like that tomorrow. So the in-person portion is basically what we're doing to fulfill the requirement for an in-person public hearing. Also for those who can't access the website, but the website is full of very good information. I think it does a very good job of stepping through everything because the study's been going on for a while and there's a lot of information to go through. But I think it's it has you go through it very efficiently. So I like to push everybody there. We also have, you can submit comments that way. We take comments via email, questions, we respond if you submit them on the website. And you have until March 8th for your comments to become part of the public record. So next slide. Okay, so I do want to give just a little bit of a background. I'll keep it brief and in a nutshell on how we ended up with our preferred alternative. We started out, we had 5 preliminary alternatives that were developed based on the purpose and need for the project, with an understanding of the existing conditions and constraints along the corridor. The alternatives were developed to limit the need to expand outside of the existing right-of-way, the adjacent neighborhoods, and CSX Railroad, while maintaining the same access at existing ramp locations. So you can kind of see in this image, this is actually a still shot from the website as it runs through this. Those initial 5 included a couple of elevated alternatives, and those were thrown out pretty early on. Just the traffic evaluation and costs. So we had moved forward a little bit with alternative 1 and 2, and alternative 1 was dismissed because of future later on down the road. I think it's about 2023. The traffic shows a need for 8 lanes, and we would have to go back to alternative 1 and pretty much destroy whatever we would build for that interim condition. So we came up with a new alternative, alternative 6, which also has an interim and ultimate condition. And if you go to the next slide, I can get into that a little bit more. So the preferred alternative allowed a 3rd lane in each direction for a total of 6 lanes in the interim configuration. And the ultimate build out is going to be 4 lanes in each direction. The interim ultimate configuration phasing allows us to add the capacity that is needed when it is needed. And we're estimating that ultimate would be needed about 2033. Also, the preferred alternative requires the least amount of reconstruction for the ultimate condition, as opposed to that alternative 1 from earlier. The next slide. And here's a little graphic of what that looks like. So basically what you're looking at with this, with the interim, we widen to the outside by not on each side, which is still within the right-of-way footprint. And we are committing to constructing walls along the entire project. The bridges will not be widened to the inside at this point. And then later on, the ultimate condition would basically add capacity to the inside. And next slide, please. So just a couple of highlights to go over really fast. So the noise study that we did indicated that noise walls are only feasible and reasonable, which is the DOT criteria, at a couple of locations. But FIA went ahead and committed to building walls along the entire length in that first room. And then we designed pedestrian safety improvements adjacent to the off-ramps to support the City of Tampa's Vision Zero goals. So that includes filling in some sidewalk gaps, improving crosswalks, things like that. And we also plan to add underpass aesthetic treatments to the underpasses where we haven't already added them. But going that way, we have done several, but I think that's a good example of what we can do at some of the other locations. Okay, so next slide. That was a pretty big summary, and when we get to the end, we can come back for questions, of course. But just to again kind of go over the couple other studies that we have going on. We have the Whiting Street Pd E Study, which is centered in downtown Tampa, and that's looking at the reconfiguration of ramp 6A and relocation of ramp 6B. and the connection of Whiting and Washington Streets to Meridian Avenue. The next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. And with the Whiting Street, you don't necessarily have to go back, but with the Whiting Street, we are looking at doing a virtual alternatives public meeting in the May timeframe. So I would say spring. So keep an eye out for that as well. And I can, give more information as we get closer, certainly, since I'm on the committee. So, okay, next slide. And then our East Selman Pd E study, I know that more recently we had Allison Ye discuss the advance notification letter for this project. So this is that Pd E study looking at from I-75 into downtown, and we're moving from east to west with this one. This one is a bit more phased out. One of the earlier phases involved looking at the reversible express lane slip ramps, adding 2 slip ramps that would basically help us utilize capacity that we already have. So it would make it easier to access the REL. And you can also get off without having to get onto Meridian. It allows you to exit the REL and stay on the Selman Expressway without actually having to go into downtown, if that's not your destination. So we're advancing that as a design build project separately. So that'll kind of add some more time for what we're looking at there. And this one, we're looking at an alternatives public meeting during the summer. So I know it's a general time frame, but again, I'll be sure to keep everybody updated on when to look out for that. And then next slide. And we have our Nebraska Pd E study. We're still calling it a Pd E, but really it's looking more like it's going to be a non-major state action because it deals more with operational improvements. And this is along Nebraska, starting at Twiggs to Cass, and includes part of Cass. And it's really to improve the right turn movement from Twiggs onto Nebraska, and then those who also move on to Cass from there. So that actually, that one's in its earlier phases. We're still in data collection, so we're not too far along with that one yet. And then next slide, I think that's all I've got. Yes, that is all I have. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to do my best to answer them.
Any questions for Ms. Quinones? Going once, going twice?
Yeah, I've got a few. Justin Willits.
Go ahead, Justin.
So I got a couple of different questions. The first one is, so the traffic forecast for the increased traffic on Gandy segment, or is because of the construction of the Gandy elevated segment is then allowing more traffic to flow, which is then now the justification for the widening of the Selman. Is that correct?
Not completely.
Okay. So it was was the traffic forecasted before that segment was complete?
No, well, it takes it into account, but it's not totally based on the Selman West extension.
Okay. But if go ahead.
And well, I was going to say, and I know that we have resources that go into way more depth than I can go into, available online, or I can, forward them to you directly, or try to get, a better, more succinct answer for you if you'd like. But
yeah, I think just understanding how that elevated section either increased or how it adjusted when the forecast would have been for the need for the widening. To understand that, I think would be useful for everyone.
Yeah, there was a lot more that went into it besides just the Selman West extension.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the thought process is, to get the traffic off Gandy, we needed the elevated lanes, and now the elevated lanes are going to feed more traffic in, which kind of justify widening. So just kind of trying to game that out in my head a little bit. Yeah, and then what my other question is, like, how does and this is my I don't really understand how Theo works a lot. So I'm just wondering, like, is this a priority for, has the city expressed this as a priority? Is it just more of a regional priority? And like, how does how do THEA projects work in the TIP and the LRTP process?
Come on, I was gonna say, is Bob still on? This is a very good Bob question.
Let me make sure he's unmuted. I don't. Let's see.
So I will say that, yeah, we can see if he can help answer this.
Yeah, he's
So
here.
Yeah, we do set our. Okay,
He's here.
Hi, Anna.
Hey.
Okay. So what's your question, Justin?
Has this project been identified by any local entities or other government agencies as a priority? And also and it's kind of a two-part question, but and I think your first answer might answer the second part, how do THEA projects work in like the TIP and the LRTP, and like how do they get prioritized?
THEA projects get prioritized by our board. We submit our work program to the MPO and to DOT and the local agencies every year on what we're doing. As for this project is part of the cell. It's within the existing right-of-way. There is no additional right-of-way that's coming, and there's no funding that is coming for this project outside of THEA. Therefore, it is basically being done by our board. We have a public hearing. We've worked with the city from the beginning on basically all the alternatives, and worked with them on every ramp and every intersection and interchange to make it more to meet the city's goals of basically the city tells us their goals of being more pedestrian safety, vision zero, and we incorporate those into our plans. So it has been, we always work with the city and the other agencies, but the prioritization is internal to THEA, and our board makes a decision on whether or not to go. We will be having our public hearing on this on February 25th, and we will submit the final PD E to the Planning Commission for review. So that's how we fit into that process. As for the Selman, the Gandy project, the traffic growth in the area is not dependent on the Gandy. Naturally, the Gandy does provide a more regional trips, which allow people to access and get to the rest of the county. And I think we removed 40% of the trips from Gandy to allow Gandy to operate better and bring those trips on. But it's just not normal growth that occurs that's going on through there. And actually, when the Howard Franklin is done, we probably will see a decrease of trips there, but it still does require the 6 lanes in the future.
Okay. Thanks so much. Just wondering if, just then the basis of my question is, I was just trying to figure out if it is something internal to THEA, which it is, and it's not a request that emanates from like the city or the MPO. It's not something that they ask you to do. It's something that THEA kind of just does. And
well, the Gandy was we were asked. It works both ways, Justin.
Gotcha.
Gandy was done by request from the city. We looked at it 10 years ago. At that point, it was not ready to go, so we basically pushed, went through the PD&E and then stopped, and then we came back. So DOT and the city asked us to do Gandy on that. Other projects on the Selman system this is just basically a widening because it's an additional lane, and it allows us actually to make some improvements at the interchange ramps. A lot of these people forget, I guess, back in the 60s when a lot of this stuff was built, we were still working on section line roads, a mile apart, things along those lines. So now when we go back in on some of these, we are able to make corrections and to, basically every single ramp will be signalized on the Selman South now. We filled in sidewalk gaps throughout the city, working with the city on that. On the 6A and 6B ramps on Whiting, we will be on that relocation was at the request of Water Street. So that they wanted that 6B, which right now is that dog leg that goes to Amelie. They wanted that removed. So we've moved it into Whiting. We have an agreement with the city that we would push Whiting through to Meridian as part of the reversible lanes. So we've worked on that. If you look at when you see the design for the 6A ramp that's going to be there, it's going to basically be much more pedestrian friendly. It'll be signalized, and it's going to help channel sides operations as well. So there's definitely a lot of collaboration that goes on between the city, the county, FDOT, and the MPO. We take part in those committees as well. So we definitely take that all into consideration and try our best to incorporate the mayor's goals into our plans to make it work better. So if you have any suggestions, we love to see at the public hearing, and our website does have more of these projects up there. I could definitely hook you up with someone to talk to about the traffic forecast as well if you're interested.
Cool. Yeah, I'll see you there. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Anna.
Yeah, thank you. See, I knew he would give a much more comprehensive answer than I could. A lot of historical knowledge. That's good.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a question. This is Michael Marino. Anna, and I think maybe it sounded like maybe Bob kind of answered one of the questions I had, but specifically, as someone who lives in South Tampa, I'm always amazed that Euclid does not have a traffic signal at the end of the ramp. Did I hear that right? That's now being considered, or at least putting a traffic signal at Euclid from that I guess westbound off ramp? Is that going to happen?
Almost, and I think we looked at all those ramps were looked at with the city, and if a traffic signal was required or asked by the city, we are putting it in. So I will definitely double check on that and make sure. I don't want to put out information that's not accurate, but my recollection is that, yeah, if there was a signal needed, we put them in. So, and we also, like I said, filled in the sidewalk gaps and added retention and some other things along there as well. We worked with the city and on every single one. We met on every single ramp and came up with designs that were approved by both the city and the. So we will definitely get, Michael, we will definitely get an answer for you on that to make sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up actually to see, and I do believe I see that there is a signal there.
Yeah, we're in the middle of renovation, so I apologize if we're not as put together as normal. I'm trying to find things.
Yeah.
Well, my general question, I mean, I guess I'm one of the users of the south section, because specifically you're getting on from Willow going west, and then Euclid and Beta Bay, just as a user, those exit and entry ramps are so short. So in what you've proposed, I know you said you can't really expand the right of way, but is that something, or is there going to be a way, or has that been considered to either extend those ramps in some form or fashion? Because it seems like to me a lot of the congestion on the westbound route in the evening is because of those entry exits, specifically Willow, Euclid, and Beta Bay. So are you able to change the geometry of those points? And then my last thing, and then I'll mute. If you found a Bucks flag going eastbound, that's my daughter's, and I'm very sorry, but she told me to tell you. If it came up.
Yes, actually Willow, for example, we put a lot of attention in, because coming off at that angle there, I mean, I got hit. I mean, it was a bad angle. So we brought that in. It's almost going to be a 5-leg now with signal control, with additional storage, so that we don't get those mainline backups. As a limited access roadway operator, our number one fear is a mainline backup. You do not want to crash at speed. So we take extra care to try to figure out how do we avoid those. So each one of those ramps was looked at and analyzed with the future traffic to make sure that we had enough storage to prevent that. So there'll definitely be some changes. On the 25th, when we do the at the public hearing. We will go through each one of them and show how they look, and they'll be out there. It's in the presentation. But to answer your question, yes, we did look at them, and we did the best we can to try to make sure that there is enough storage at all those ramps. Another priority was pedestrians at all the ramps, to make sure we improve the sidewalk system there and signalize to get as much signal control as possible to make it safer for pedestrians, and then drainage to try to see where we can find help with drainage issues, wherever we could. So those are pretty much the priorities when we're looking at all those ramps.
Yeah, and I will add again that there is a ton of information on the website. Like, there's bird's eye view plans and everything on there already. So, I mean, you could look at that today, and if you had more questions, you can contact me directly, Bob directly, or, through the website, however you'd like. But there is a lot of information that's out there already.
Karen, did you have a question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anna, I remember at a Livable Roadways committee, maybe a year or so ago, we had a presentation on like green walls or living walls, something like that, that they actually help with air quality. I don't know whether Thea has any requirements to help improve or mitigate air quality as part of a construction project, but do you remember that, and is that at all being considered? I'm sure Lisa could probably pull out some information if needed. Thank you.
At this point, it hasn't been considered during the PD E. I know that the air pollution study, I think that since we're in non-attainment, there's not a requirement for it. But as part of the PD E, that in itself wasn't looked at.
Anna, we are looking at one of the things Thea has been a big part of our culture has been we want to make corridors better when we put roadways in there than when we first came in. So, for example, if you look at Swan Avenue, you look right at the dog park over here on Raymond. We've also got the what was the name of the Anna? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the subdivision. The Hyde Park entrance.
The Morrison Avenue, the gateways. Yeah,
Morrison Avenue gateway, things along those lines. So what we are looking for, Karen, is what can we do at the interchange, at those interchanges, to make them more livable, more aesthetic, and what the community wants. Those green walls or livable walls that you're talking about might be something that we could look at in design or something. So if Lisa wants to send that over, we could definitely look at it. We are looking for ideas in those areas. What do we do to those to make them more attractive and actually to fit? Because as I always say, we live here too. We want it to look and be as as good as it can be as well. So yeah, if you want to send that over, we could definitely make sure that we get that in the comments and forward that. But that might be an interesting concept.
Great. Well, thank you for your care about the community. And yeah, if you would consider it, that'd be great. Lisa, I'm sure you have the information, right?
Yes, I can share that. And that's great information. And we really appreciate that you're including the noise wall the whole way, even though the study didn't warrant it. But yeah, there's some great treatments that help that. We looked at that with the Tampa Bay Next downtown interchange. We're still pursuing that. I'll be bringing an update to the committee soon.
Our executive director was very adamant on that. He wanted those noise walls up for the whole way to make sure that we provided as much as we could for those residential areas, being that we're an urban freeway there. Anna, I missed it. Did we talk about the Greenway at all? Did you mention that?
No, not in this presentation. I hadn't, but go for it.
I was just going to say, but we do have another section of the Greenway that we will be improving as well. The area basically right between the ramps over there at Camels all the way over to Jefferson. And we've also been working with SPP to connect over to Meridian through the Cumberland area. And we'll be looking at designing the next piece, which will go from Jefferson to Kennedy, right by the school board, that area back there. Will be our next design piece, which will be our next fiscal year. So we have a couple of things that are going as well on the pedestrian side that as well as the roadway side.
Yay.
Yeah,
Any other go ahead, Bob.
oh, please, I was just gonna say, Karen, we'll be reaching out to you for part of that on the wayfinding and for the Greenway, so.
Any other questions? Okay, Anna, I just have a real quick question, and I know it's probably a moot point, but in the spirit of transparency, how much citizens neighborhood outreach has been performed, and how much input have you received?
A lot, actually. So even before the study started, Sue Charzan, our communications director, and her group, they started doing meetings with each of the homeowners association, or I think mostly out there they have the neighborhood associations. So they started pretty early on, a year and a half ago, I think, or right before the study started going. She started reaching out to make sure that they were aware of all the projects that we have going on and the difference between the projects and what the study was going to look like. Because we also did the work to put up the median barrier. She wanted to make sure that they understood that that was not a widening project, that it was something separate. So she's done a lot of actual footwork getting out there. We have gotten a lot of feedback, and we continue to get feedback. But she's really worked hard to make sure that she gets out there and talks to everybody, and makes it at meet. Well, before COVID times, she would go out in person, of course, a lot more often. But yeah, so we've definitely communicated with them a lot, and they communicate with us a lot too. But,
That's what I like to hear. As a councilman, the one thing I don't want to hear is, I didn't know anything about it. I was never informed. So thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Quinones?
Yes, there's one in the chat. And then I suspect your summary of all your outreach is probably on that website with all the other information, if anybody wants to take a deeper dive. Gus Ignis puts in the chat that is an update to the Gandy extension going to be presented at the public hearing on the 25th.
No,
The 25th is specifically a public hearing for the Selman South Pd E, as required by law that we need to do. So it will be specific to that. We should be having some news on the Gandy extension coming up in the next month or so. And as of in December, we laid the last piece, so the full connection. Now they're working on the rest of it. We're looking for hopefully this spring, early summer, to get to get her open. So you'll definitely be hearing something recently, but it will probably not be there. I can talk to Sue and see about having an announcement at the end of that public hearing, when we close the public hearing, on what the status is, if that's something that would be desirable.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, just quickly, give us the place and time for the public hearing on the 25th.
It'll be at the convention center at 6:30 or 6.
It opens up at 5, so you can go in before to check out the stations. The presentation begins at 6. We will have COVID protocols in place, social distancing, mask wearing, sanitizing stations, things like that. But we will have documents printed out for people to view if they don't have access to see them online too.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you all for your wonderful report. Have a great day. Our next item agenda is old business, new business. Lisa.
Yes, a few months ago, you guys said that you would like to add school representation to your committee. So I prepared the bylaws amendment that's going to the MPO for approval. In the interim, I was working on those schools presentations that was also requested. We will be seeing Hillsborough County school presentation next month. But in the discussion, the school district staff members of the technical advisory committee were like, what? Livable Roadways wants school representatives? They're like, we would volunteer to just transfer over from the TAC to LRC. We would love to be on a committee that's interested and wants to collaborate with us. So rather than putting out a call for applications, we could process that transfer. So I wanted to see what the will of the committee is before I make that happen. The members, I spoke to Amber Dickerson. She is the Director of Growth Management and Planning for the school district. And right now her staff member, Matthew Pleasant, serves on the TAC, and I believe she's the alternate. So it would be 2 of the school district staff would be then identified on our roster, would be the action.
Any comments or questions from the board members? Going once, going twice.
Any opposition to doing that? I really could use some feedback before I process this.
Actually, so I guess, is there a need to have them on the TAC, even if it's not, maybe the most welcome environment for them? I'm just wondering if, if possibly, even if they may face some hostilities, it would still be good for them to have somebody sitting on the TAC as well as us.
Well, I'm sorry if I'm, no hostility. They just was like, well, there's not been a lot of interaction on school related issues, yet our committee keeps coming up with them. So that was their like, oh, we'd like to. No, they have no problem being a TAC member, but I did, once they suggested it, check with our executive director and the bylaws of the TAC, because it is a required committee of an MPO. And I said, I don't want to even propose this as an idea until I confirm that there's no problem with the lack of membership on the TAC. And she says, no, it sounds, as long as we have meaningful participation, it sounds like it would be more meaningful with the Livable Roadways. That is fine. She said, there's no requirement that they serve on that particular committee.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there's no hostility. They just were like,
Good.
oh, well,
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. This is Cal. I think it's a good idea. I think they fit more within the LRC than they would in the TAC. I've sat on both. I think I'm an alternate on the TAC. But it seems to be a little bit more on the technical side and not geared towards lay people understanding, for lack of a better word. And the LRC kind of deals more with how people interact with the roadway.
And Lisa, this is Michael Marino. I think having them on a committee, especially someone of Amber's qualifications, would be good, especially as we think about like how our schools' properties are designed. You know, a lot of these schools aren't walking schools because they're giant campuses, and you know, I mean, I went to a high school that's probably had its entrance designed 3 different times since it was built, Sickles High School, all because of the road in front of it. And you think it'd be a walking school, and it really isn't. So I think it's ideal that someone like her joins the committee.
Yes, that's a really good point, Michael, because we run into that problem often. It's trying to retrofit bad designs to make the roadway system work. But that's a good point, Mike. So I agree with that.
All right, any other comments or questions?
We do have another member brought up new business. Sarah, are you still with us so you can discuss your item?
Oh yeah, thank you, Lisa. I just wanted to call attention to everybody. We're running a bicycle encouragement campaign. It's called Love to Ride. And this is actually a statewide campaign. It's being sponsored by the Florida Department of Transportation. And the whole idea is to get more people to ride their bikes. People who haven't been on a bicycle for years, help encourage them to get back on their bicycle and ride. And for those occasional riders to ride more. It's very easy. It's free. I'll put the link in the chat box. people can participate as an individual. I'm bringing this to your attention because my hope is that you take this and bring it back to your organizations and encourage your organizations to participate as a workplace or an organization. And we're just looking for more participation, and it's a lot of fun. Thanks.
I can attest. I created the Plan Hillsborough team for our agency, so the MPO and Planning Commission staff are part of that, and we've participated in various campaigns. And yes, it would be great to have a show of extra participation in the bicycle month, which is March. So we're leading into that. So I have the flyers for our own agency, and Sarah sent it to me as a particular for the Livable Roadways Committee. So I will send that out so that you have it as direct information right in your inbox. So that's all the new business and old business that I have. But
does anybody have any new business they'd like to bring before the board?
I would. This is Cal.
Okay.
Cal, go ahead.
I just wanted to let y'all know we have a bunch of projects being in construction right now that y'all are probably have heard about in the past. But in the next, are already in construction right now, Green Spine phase 3A, or I'm sorry, 3B. Wait, no, 3A. What am I saying? 3A from it's on Nutria Parkway from Nebraska the 7th is in construction right now. They just got started, so you'll see a couple of things going, turning up the dirt and everything over there. The Columbus Drive project that I presented on in the past, that's from Nebraska to 14th. That one is, I think, just started construction this week. So that's a big project that's going to really help out that area. And we have one up in Armenia and Bush, which is a capacity project that we're starting. We're still going through the bids right now, but that should be starting within the next 3 months. And also 46th Street, which I think I may have presented for the LRC, but it's another walk bike project up in District 7, kind of close to USF. That one started, I believe, it didn't start now, it's starting within the next month or so. So, but anyway, it's altogether about $11 million for the projects, mostly walk bike related projects too. And even the capacity project has crosswalks, bike lanes, new sidewalk, trail wide or wide sidewalks and stuff like that. So a lot of cool projects going on. This is $11 million of a planned like $41 million that's about to be spent in the city. Just a bunch of old projects are coming to fruition at the same time. Just kind of worked out that way. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of construction going on in the next couple of years.
And what are you doing on the bed again?
Nebraska, nothing. The Nebraska is not. We're not working on Nebraska. Nebraska is the limits for both our Green Spine and our Columbus Drive. So on Nutria Parkway at Nebraska, that's where our Green Spine project will start. The Green Spine on the west side of Nebraska is already built, but will be, and then the Green Spine is our cycle track, our two-way cycle track. But we will be doing some more RFB crosswalks on Nutria Parkway. We'll be upgrading that crosswalk that is currently there. And part of in order to make room for the parade floats that are going through Nutria, we actually changed the plans to widen or to keep the 2 lanes of Nutria Parkway intact because we were originally taking out a lane. But that came at the expense of the cedars that are in the right of way. But to be honest, I would have, those cedars were so bad for sight visibility for both pedestrians and for cars turning onto 3rd Avenue that I'm glad that we're going to be replacing those with more appropriate landscaping for the right of way there. But so that's one of the things. And then Columbus, that project starts in Nebraska, but that's a huge like walk bike project where we're widening the sidewalks. fixing all the ADA issues, because right now every driveway cut is an ADA problem. We'll be adding some RFB crosswalks, adding some bulb outs, pedestrian bulb outs, and some street trees to make it a little bit more comfortable out there. And also they act as a resiliency measure to they take in stormwater into the street tree wells. So it's a cool project. It's one that I think is going to be looked at very like kind of how we go forward as an example of what we should be doing in the future.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. I live over this way and I have a lot of problems. So I'm glad you're doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Arizona.
Yeah, and also while I'm talking, Nutria Parkway, that road that goes from Nutria Parkway and 7, it goes around the curve, the 15th Street.
Yeah.
That wall that they put there, that goes around the curve, that is gonna be a very dangerous curve. I see accidents there all the time. People are flying around that curve, and there's another road that goes in front of the curve. It goes on the interstate.
Yep.
They can't see the cars coming around the curve. So when they pull out, bam, right there, all done. And I think we should do something about that.
Yeah, we are actually. So we have plans. I'm going to be meeting with our groups, our engineering group, our design group, and our planning group to kind of go over some options for that. But we have plans on doing some traffic calming measures for Nutria Parkway. And what we're going to do is we have our next phase of Green Spine will go in that area. It'll go from 7th to, well, not the next phase. I think it goes from 7th to 7th to Columbus. So yeah, it's the next phase would be right in that area. And but in advance of that project, we're planning on doing an in-house project where we design and construct some traffic calming measures, some RRFBs right around that curve. So I can get with you on that when we have some. We're going to be making some plots real quick so that we can actually see what's going on and kind of doodle what we want on there. But I'll get with you directly on that, Arizona, because I know that we talked about that in the future, or in the past. We talked about it in the future. We talked about it in the past, but I'll get with you to make sure that I know exactly where your areas of concern are. Okay.
Yeah, man, that's why they good. They can't. You blocking the view of the cars. You get the cars to get on the interstate, and the cars are flying around the curve like crazy. Bam, bam, all the time. And they're also going up the wrong way. People are going up the road the wrong way. That's very dangerous corner of the city.
Okay. Well, like I said, when I get the everything like plotted out, I'll come contact you and send you some emails and try to get with you to see where exactly you're seeing the accidents. And we'll pull crash data as well, so we see if we have any crash reports around there.
Anybody else have any comments or questions to bring before the board under new business?
Yeah, this is Justin Willits, just real quick. I figured that considering who our chairperson is, that maybe talking about parking downtown would be a good idea for this committee. I'd like to think that one of the most pro-transit policies the city has done since I've been here for 7 years was to increase the cost of parking per hour to more than the cost of a bus pass, single trip. And so I think that, I'm going to probably be speaking to a lot of stakeholders about this issue on behalf of HART in the future. So I was going to suggest that maybe we had a conversation here, since we're fortunate enough to have a city council person. And then I was also going to offer to Mr. Citro to reach out to Lorena Hardrick to maybe set up some time for us to chat one-on-one about how much of an important step very modest increases in parking costs are to us becoming a much more transit-friendly city, and kind of encouraging people to use buses when they are really easy for them to use, by not artificially subsidizing parking downtown. Without diving into a really deep hole, I did want to offer to chat with you anytime and just reach out to Lorena, and I'm sure she'd be happy to set it up. But yes, having a conversation here would also be good as a future agenda item. Thanks.
There's a hotline 88 meeting tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the hotline office in East I am the Black Chairman of the committee. So if you want to bring it up in the public comments, you can.
Are you referring to me, Arizona, or are you talking to Justin? I'm sorry.
I think that was a general announcement. She was just sharing.
If you or Justin or whoever you want, whoever want to bring it up, the meeting tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the hotline office, Ybor. So if you want to bring it up, you should bring it up there.
Justin, the conversation on parking in downtown, did you want to start that today, or do you want to wait until next month?
I was thinking we could wait, but I just thought it was something that, since we have a very rare audience with you in attendance, would be warranted amongst this group. Since I don't get any one-on-one time with you, that's why I figured we should talk about it here.
You've got all my phone numbers, don't you?
Yeah, but we have to go through official channels as Hart staff, so this is one of the very few that I have.
Well, did I hear somebody going to say something?
Well, I was going to say parking management is a topic that's appropriate for livable roadways. I can pursue getting that as a future topic if it is the will of the committee. I've seen some other presentations on it. I don't know that Livable Roadways has recently, so I just give me direction.
Maybe Karen revisiting the parking study, since that was part of the
impetus.
It's
been a while, and I'm not sure she brought it to our committee at that time. So, yeah.
Can we put that on the agenda for next month?
Yeah, I'll try to get it confirmed for next month, if not April.
Fantastic. Justin, please, I've already pulled up Lorena's number here on my phone. I'll give her a call as soon as this is over. Reach out to me anytime you want. We can always have conversations concerning this. I think I made my point at council meeting, if I may, Lisa, quite clear that the area that I was talking about, to revert back to the parking fees that we have now, was to help churches and community organizations. The rest of the city, I'm an advocate for raising the parking rates. So the area that I had pointed out, Cass to Kennedy, Florida to Pierce, really has no businesses that are open after 6, 7 o'clock at night. And there is still some parking on streets that are needed for all these community organizations, and for parking for people that are appearing at City Hall for either variance review board, city council, you name it. There are different type of boards where people need to park in the evening time. So, but as I have stated in public in the council meetings, I'm wanting to see a parking increase for the rest of the city. But let's see when I sit down and talk about that.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear the whole conversation. I was just aware of the outcome, and so I look forward to meeting with you and Lorena. Should be a good talk. So thanks.
Fantastic. Anytime. Okay. Anybody else have anything to bring before the board? All right, then, Miss Lisa, anything else before we adjourn?
I'll remind you that in the addendum, we have the City of Tampa's moves listening sessions. They have several that are going on. This group would probably want to participate in that. So that's attached, and then other updates are in your addendum. But our monthly meeting is usually the third Wednesday due to conflicts with spring break. It'll be the fourth Wednesday next month. So we'll see you on March 24th. That concludes it. So I'm going to close it down unless there's anything else.
Well, if I hear no discussion or no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for a great meeting.
All right. Bye.